Hello, hello, welcome to Revelator Alf. It's a radio podcast thing. We are live here from the UK. Me, that's what I meant to say, me. I am live here from the UK, and hey, it's the hot news today, right now, is Donald Trump. Yeah, he's actually in court. He's been formally arrested in the United States, in New York City, and he's going to go for his arraignment right now. It's happening right now. But the question is, what's going to be the big fallout of this? But in the motorcycle world, the big news for me, I suppose, if we're going to relate it to motorcycling, is, there was this big swell of support for Donald Trump in the motorcycle community, in the biker world in the United States. And there's groups, they're called Bikers for Trump. They started, and they had lots of support for him. In fact, I think I'm not sure if it's the leader of this Bikers for Trump, he was actually on the media just the other day or yesterday, pledging his support, and the whole founder supporter for Donald Trump as well. But there's so much going on here, and trying to digest exactly what's gone on. And is it the system after him? Is it what has he done? So it's, let us know your thoughts on this if you're watching. We're going to be digging into that a lot later. I'm going to be bringing up the latest feeds as well, and seeing what we got in terms of what is happening out there for Donald Trump, of course. But also, I've got all the news feeds open as well. I'm going to be covering a lot of the motorcycle news as well. But you can see the press is all over the world right now. It's just covering it, and there's protests. There's going to be protests for and against, of course. There's going to be lots of things like that. But listen, let's say wherever you are, I've got the chat open. Let us know where you are. Let us know what you're up to, what you think of this kind of thing as well. And let me just check the chat, make sure that's all working as well. Yep, there we go. Yes, and that's all working again as well. So listen, the story of today. The story of today is, of course, Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Is it big news for you? Is it expected? Is this something that you thought was always going to happen? It was just a matter of time. Looking from an independent point of view, looking from afar, it does kind of think that, this was going to happen. This was going to happen, regardless of what support is out there. The problem is, again, somebody who's from the independent point of view would look at this situation, or look at the politics in most countries really, but certainly the United States is very divided, 50-50. And then along comes a maverick, which is essentially what Donald Trump was or is, a maverick. And, it's going to alienate immediately half the country, and then kind of alienate a lot of the party you stood for, the Republican Party. But the groundswell of popular vote support from the electorate surprised everybody, and I'm sure it surprised him as well. But support came from lots of different areas, and obviously some of that big support came from the motorcycle world itself, the biker community. And I never would have thought that I would have seen bikers in the United States form groups in support of a public figure, and almost creating clubs and associations, motorcycle clubs that are wearing the patches and, all that kind of stuff, for it. So it's a very interesting thing for me, what drives people to do this? What drives people to come out and support? And is it a case that it just got taken along for the ride? Or is it now that a lot of these groups, a lot of these supporters that the ex-president used to have, whether they're still there now? Now, of course, if you go onto, Twitter sphere and Facebook, this Bikers for Trump and other groups are like it, I'm sure, they've got, I wouldn't say a massive following, but, they've got a reasonable following, but I wouldn't say a massive following. So is this just overhyped a little bit? I think what a bit of a red flag for me, and I don't know if this is what you have to do if you're kind of doing any kind of political lobby group, because I think this is what the Bikers for Trump really is. It's turned into a bit of a political lobby group or supporting group that you have to become a company, an LLC, and that always strikes me as being a bit odd when you've got a group of bikers, let's say, who form together, and it's not a club, it's not an association, it becomes a company, it becomes a business, an LLC. Now, maybe that's just a way of covering the costs and, accounting for everything and making sure, keeping a track of the money. It's like, I can kind of get that. But it's all, it raises an eyebrow. It kind of, it's a bit of a red flag sometimes when you see this happening. And I'm certainly not suggesting that this is the case here. But let us know wherever you are, what you're watching. And there we go. Jerry Powell, good evening, Alf, and all. Good evening, Jerry. How are you? He's a criminal. Well, he's going through the criminal proceedings. That's right. He's... already this morning, he's been slating the process, he's been slating the judge, he's been slating the prosecution. He's coming out all guns blazing. So, we've got to see what's going to happen. And, it's going to be unfolding as we're speaking right now. Obviously, this is just the initial arraignment or whatever they call it. I'm not too hot on the American legal system. But it's like a pre-trial and arraignment, and then they're going to decide whatever. So nothing's going to be decided today. I wasn't aware that he's the first former president or ex-president. I can never remember which is the correct term. Basically, the former president or the ex-president, one means that they've saw out their full term, in other words, 2 terms, and one means that they didn't serve out the full term. I can never remember which. So he could be former president rather than ex-president, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, that's kind of irrelevant, really, bit of a trivia. But I hadn't realised that he's the first former ex-president, whichever the right term is, to be have criminal charges brought against him in 200 years. When a former vice president. I think they said it was Byrne or somebody, was indicted for treason as well. So, it's a very uncommon thing. They're just reading the list of things against him, and it's not only about lies and about deceptions. And this ex or current, I don't even know, form. Adult entertainer or porn star, if you like, she's got involved with it, where she was paid off, and whether it's an illegal payment, whether it's denied, that's all part of it. But it's also about the handover from his presidency, the way he's claimed corruption when it was all unfounded. Donald Trump was one of these kinds of characters who would always make big claims, and sometimes he was right, and sometimes he was way off base. So there's lots of things like that. So you kind of wonder, well, all these things that have happened during his presidency and since, how much support is there in the United States for him? Or within the motorcycle community, with any community, within the Republican Party. I think if you come away from the press, let's say, if you come away from the populist view or the popular supporter or the popular anybody who's anti Donald Trump, if you come away from that and just start meandering in the middle ground, lots of people, I'm sure, there's a big percentage who are not very politically minded. They kind of go with the flow a little bit. They just want the best. And some people will switch. They'll swing their votes, go left or right, whichever they'll go for. But I'm sure a lot of people went for Trump, and they're glad they did, and they always support him. But I'm sure a lot of people went for Trump as well. But then they kind of just got fed up, and they just never really believed he was the right person for the job, but he was the best out of a bad choice, as it were. And how many times have we heard that before in any leadership election? It's the best. They're the best party out of a bad choice, or I'm going to vote for them because I don't particularly want to vote for somebody. Them, and it's it just gets very messy very quickly. So you wonder how much support is still there. hey, listen, if you go by, some of the news feeds which I looked at, let me just show you, see if I've got some of these still. I don't think I've got them anymore. Oh, don't know what that was. But it's there's still lots of well, I wouldn't say propaganda, it's probably the wrong word, but there's lots of support there in the biker world, lots of support in the groups for him. But it's a bit of a weird thing. It's a bit of a weird thing to support him, I think, because he's not there anymore. Yeah, so I suppose you wanted to go for election again, or be a candidate again, but that can't happen. Surely that can't happen with this going. I mean, he's going to claim foul. He's going to claim that the system is out to get him. That the black cloak of the Democratic Party and the liberals out there are trying to get him. Look, there's a case to answer here for mainstream media covering up some things or twisting things. The mainstream media is typically left of centre, but then again, it happens on the other side as well. It happens on the right side of media, and also happens on the right side of parties as well. So everybody's culpable for this. Everybody's doing this. What's this? Hi, I want to offer. No, okay. No, not having any of that. Ignore that. Blue Man EO046. Hi, Alf. I'll give you my opinion, being a US citizen and a Democrat in short. Thank you. It's good. The Republicans over here make more noise than the Democrats. Thus, they get more attention. Yeah. Look, there's a lot of shouting from both sides, so I would imagine, no doubt. Mad Mac, he's a bloody crook, and I ride against him. You see, again, I'm not even sure what is 50-50. But I always question... I always question what I'm being told. I always question what I'm reading, let's say, and I always want to have corroborating stories and corroborating evidence. But sometimes there are things that are just clear to see. There's things that, you got to judge somebody on their behavior. So on his behavior alone, sometimes, and on his, on the words that he would use in certain situations, I would question whether he would ever be fit for office. Now, he was very unstatesmanlike. However, just bear with me for those of you who are just about to throw mud at the screen. Because that he was very unstatesmanlike, actually, that's what got him a lot of support. And, this is not just an American thing. It happened over here as well. It happened with, Boris Johnson, equally a calamity, equally as absurd in certain circles. Maybe not as crass, maybe not as obtuse as Trump, but equally as divisive as well. We've got a divided country in terms of, people who are for and against the two main parties, really. Yeah, you can have a vote for other parties as well, but the main two is still left or right, Labour or Conservative. So, so every country has their own political structures, own political tug of wars, let's say, and it's usually between two main parties. Not always, granted, but sometimes. So this is not just an American thing. But if you just look at certain people around the world, certain politicians around the world, who just don't act like politicians, who just don't act in the best interests of the community that they serve, then you kind of think, well, what's going on? If you look at Donald Trump. If you look at Donald Trump, a character like Donald Trump, right? He's the kind of character that always appeared to me to be full of self-interest. It's all about him. It's all about the Donald Trump show. It's all about him and what he can get out. His whole family was all part of that. So I just wonder how many people bought into that, or just did not want to see that, did not want to acknowledge that. Did they truly believe that a politician like that a person like that, who's not really a politician, had the average Joe, as it were, had their best interests at heart? I'm not so sure. Blue Man, E046. If I'm pronouncing your name wrong, I do apologise. He was never fit for office. He rode in on his celebrity status and cheating the system. Law. I think many people, certainly over here in the UK, Trump had and still has his supporters over here in the UK and has his supporters around the world as well. There's no doubt that he had support. But there's also a great number of people outside of the United States who just saw him as some kind of, cartoon character, some kind of, a bit of a farce, really, in terms of the political process. The way he would call out the whole fake news thing, the journalists. And again, there's always two sides to the story, and there's always the right and wrong. And yes, mainstream media has really let themselves down in the last few years as well, no doubt. But at the same time, it's just the way he went about it. And, all the stuff in his presidential election campaign, the first one, before he got into office, all the things about the way he was misogynistic and, treating women and touching women, that all kind of went by the wayside. The whole Stormy Daniels thing, with the porn star as well. Who knows what the hell went on, but you can kind of guess what went on, if you know what I mean. We're not all choir boys here, let's face it. So it's an interesting thing. With the kind of character he is, what makes anybody want to support him? What makes anybody from the motorcycle world, from any community, want to support him? Interestingly, one of the greatest surprises in the American electoral process was the amount of votes that he got. I believe, I could be wrong, so if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments in the chat and let me know. But some of the biggest support, I'm not sure if it's the biggest support, but he got a surprising number of votes from the African American community and also the American Hispanic community as well. And I think also from other minorities in the United States, like the Asian, Korean, that kind of thing as well. And the reason is a lot of those societies are quite. I'm talking about the minorities here. A lot of those are quite conservative in their views as well. A lot of that would be looking at business interests as well. But I was surprised by a lot of support that came from the African American community, and also especially from the Hispanic community as well. Especially with all this rhetoric about, the wall and divide against Mexico as well. Whatever you want to say about any individual, there's always going to be those who will support him, those who look up to that kind of person. They believe in what somebody is saying. I always say this. I've said this a million times. Well, possibly not a million times, but you can understand my exaggeration here. I've always saying that once you have a public platform, a public voice, and here, classic example on YouTube here, doing a live show, and on Twitter as well, and you can follow me along the socials and all that kind of stuff, and you can help and support on PayPal and Patreon, as you have done, and thank you for the support there. But you can have a voice, and that voice can go far and wide, and no matter what you say, you can be as outlandish as you like, within the confines of being decent and acceptable and not breaking any internet laws, let's say, okay? But guaranteed, no matter what you say, that you can guarantee there will be some people around the world who will understand, who will agree with what you're saying, and they will start to be on your side and rally support for you. And the more that you do it, and the more that you make yourself attractive, okay, then the greater your groundswell of support becomes. Why do you think the best charismatic leaders, not the best in terms of the way they are, but the ones that were most charismatic actually ended up being the worst leaders out there? Pol Pot, Hitler, charismatic leaders, Idi Amin, I don't know, who else, However, any great leader, let's say in their time for their supporters, I should say, for their supporters, everybody else thinks they're absolute, nut job. So, whilst I'm not comparing Trump to any of those, of course, I'm just making the point that, that you're always going to have support no matter what you say. So no matter what he was saying, he was always going to alienate a big percentage of the media, because he was calling them out and he was telling them what. And look, some things had to be called out. I agree. Some things they needed to be called out. Other things didn't. So he's alienated the media. He's alienated, those in society who have a voice. And let's face it, the Hollywood elite, let's say, who are very left-leaning anyway, they're not going to like him, right? So what are you going to do? He's going to go after the heartlands, right? He's going to go after those who work, blue collar jobs, that kind of thing, decent, hard working people. Okay, in this case, Americans. My question was always, when I listened to Donald Trump talk, was that, well, who's believing this? And, the things that you're saying, make America great again and all this sort of stuff, who's actually believing it? And it's all very well and good, you being a multi-millionaire saying that, and you go into, deprived areas in your country and saying things, we're going to get this back on, we're going to do this again, all that sort of stuff. And it's just like, do people honestly believe that? I mean, look, again, I'm possibly the wrong person to ask, because I'm not very political in my persuasion, if you know what I mean. I don't lean left or right. I'm kind of in the middle. I treat every political party with the same kind of indifference. I don't believe any of them, really. I don't believe any. You got to go a long way to convince me that you're telling me the truth for a start. Your attention's in the right place, and you haven't been compromised along the way. So one thing I could say about Donald Trump, that he came across that he was unflinching and he was not going to compromise to the political process. And that's why he, within the political process himself, within the Republican Party, let's say, he had many detractors, but also within. And this is lots of parallels here with Boris Johnson here in the UK, within the Conservative Party as well. He didn't have overwhelming support within the political arena, even from his own, the Republican Party, that's for sure. But he had popular opinion amongst the people on the ground, in outside of this. The working classes, the middle classes, the general middle classes who were kind of, he struck a chord with a lot of people who became totally disenfranchised with the whole political process. And, who can blame them? It's exactly the same in this country and many other countries as well. Electoral voting turnout there's been a big reduction over many, many years. Okay, I think it rebounded a little bit, but for the most part, where you've got voluntary voting, basically most people are just fed up with the political process and they just think, I can't be bothered to vote for anybody. You're all the same, dear. Blue. Just call me Blue. Thank you. Trump tried to use the dictator's playbook to take over the nation. Thank God enough people saw the truth and fought back. Yeah. I remember I was in New York at the time. I was sitting in a diner in New York, and I was with my lad, and he was basically asking me, Dad, this is when he was up against Hillary Clinton. This is when he was up against her, and I kind of was very aware at the time. It was very politically charged at the time. And I can't remember what time of year it was. It probably was in the region about September. It was only a couple of months out from the I don't know. I'm not exactly sure when it was. But anyway, it wasn't too far from the election, right? And it's a very political charge. And I can remember at the time, and I was just thinking, crikey, here we go. Don't ask me this here in front of people. Whilst I know New York is quite liberal, quite left-leaning anyway, in general. You never know, right? And all I could say to him, and this is kind of what I got, the feeling that I got at the time, if I was sort of speaking to people and the word on the street, is that a lot of people, most people, didn't like either of them. Didn't like Clinton, didn't like, Trump, but they thought Trump was just a better bet. Now, whether that people had the wool pulled over their eyes by his charisma, by him being unconventional, not being very unpolitical like. I'm sure a lot of people did, and I'm sure a lot of people do now with any political leader. But again, I just wonder how many of those initial supporters or those initial voters voted for him. Now let's fast forward 4 years when he went up against Biden. Yes, he lost, and whilst he'll say it was rigged and everything, you cannot discount that the voting turnout was, I think it was one of the largest on record. And for a losing candidate, he got virtually as many as the winning candidate in Biden, I think. There wasn't that much in it. And it was record numbers. I think they got 60, 65, 70 million each. Something like that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. His tactics have been unconventional. His rhetoric has been unconventional. In fact, it very much reminds me of a bully boy. Somebody who's just had his own way his whole life. And that's what came across to me. I never believed anything that he said. I didn't believe in necessarily his politics. And I felt sorry for the people who were caught up in this, who believed it, who thought it was the right thing. Now, this is outside of everything that has gone on. With everything that's gone on in the White House in terms of him. And let's not forget, let me just say something completely, right down the middle here. I don't believe that any president has been whiter than white, let's say, that has never put a foot wrong whilst in office or whilst trying to get into office or since being in office. I don't believe that for 1 second, because they all do things for the grab of power. Some more than others. Some do cover-ups. The political process is a horrible thing. But here you've got, somebody who got into the White House, very popular, got the populist vote, still increasingly popular, still, wanted to, buck the system, get his own social media going when they tried to ban him, or they did ban him initially from Twitter sphere. He became larger than life. He became larger than the position. He became larger than POTUS himself. He was larger than the presidency. And that's a very bad thing to happen when you're larger than the position that you hold. And that's why Deep State didn't particularly like him. As the deep state, the process within the United States, the CIA, FBI, national, whatever the other main groups are over there, they weren't really enamored with him because he was starting to call them out for what they were. And yes, there's a lot of stuff going on. The whole Twitter files thing that's going on in Twitter, this exposing, how government groups have been trying to dictate what goes on within Twitter and all that sort of stuff. That's been going on for a while. John, hi, how are you? Mad Mac, most of America is against him, but he has a loudmouth cult following. Yes, we all laugh at how stupid he actually is. He lost a popular vote twice. Biden got over 7 million more votes. Yeah, I knew it was, but they both got record numbers, I seem to recall. But yeah, I knew there was a substantial amount. Quite ironic how Trump motivates the opposing side to vote. Oops. Well, but you always need that, John, though, don't you? If you want to stop somebody getting into power, you have to vote. And this is why many tyrants and many charismatic leaders from the past have got into power. It's because of apathy, voter apathy. Many people would say this is a reason why we had Brexit as well, through voter apathy. People thought, oh, this would never get through, and they didn't vote in numbers. So it wasn't a true representation. That's why there was such a furore afterwards when people say, no, we want to vote again, we want to vote again. Well, I'm sorry, but you should have voted in the first place. You should have voted for or against if you're, either way. And it's exactly the same here. There's still division over the whole Brexit thing, and there's still division over whether it was the right decision, what the mess we're in now. Would we still have been in the mess anyway because of all the global things as well, all the global factors? Would the opposite party have done a much better job of the process of dealing with everything? Why was there a referendum in the first place to vote for Brexit? And the people that voted for Brexit, let's say, are 100% of those people happy? Well, it'd be exactly the same with those people voting for Trump or any other leader. There will be a percentage who are absolutely think it's the right thing to have done, and there'll be another percentage of people who thought it was absolutely the wrong decision to do. Blue man, we had a record turnout in votes because people were sick of the lies and how Trump mishandled COVID. That's why Biden got the vote. Yes. Has Brexit affected you getting bike parts from overseas? It's hard to say whether Brexit itself has caused an issue, but certainly because of all the other things that were going on, COVID and everything. But the cumulative effect of Brexit, COVID, prices have gone up. In some cases, things are a bit difficult to get, but that's because of supply chain issues. One of the things that people initially thought was that as soon as you get Brexit, it would be an immediate disconnection from Europe. The problem is that whole process of the disconnection of Europe in terms of laws, in terms of policies, in terms of the Northern Ireland issues as well. All these kinds of things have just taken so long, years now, to try and get sorted out, and we're still not sorted out with it. So it's a very hard thing to say, in those terms, as you say, have prices gone up? The thing, what has happened is noticeable, absolutely noticeable, is that certain services have really suffered in terms of getting people to work in certain sectors. Farming communities, agriculture, market gardening, the service industry, restaurants, hotels, old people's homes, nursing homes, care homes, that kind of thing, hospitals, that kind of thing, because a lot of the jobs were taken up by foreign nationals. And when the foreign nationals were facing Brexit, they said, well, why would we stay in a country where people don't want us? And that's the problem. The problem is that lots of things, that there's been a massive knock-on effect because of labour shortages. And the fact of the matter is that many of these jobs, many of the British people don't want to do or can't do and whatever. So there is a shortage. There's never been a better time to get a job in the UK, if you're allowed to come and work here and that kind of thing. And then you get the ridiculous situation where the government, or like I say, a year or 2 years ago, they're trying to give people from European countries and other countries work visas to come and get here, trying to give them incentives. Well, hold on a minute. Brexit, you kind of force people out and told to get out of the country, we don't need you anymore. Then a few months later, well, basically, hey, we need you, come back. Ridiculous, really. But there we go. I just got a couple of messages coming now. Good. Okay. Listen, let us know what you think about this whole process here. Let's just, I want to show you this one here. This is when the quite old stories here as well. This is from 2020, but this is from, this is a classic thing that we saw. Bikers, with the Trump flags all over the US. Let me just bring up another one here. And this is probably another one here. Here we go. Right, so if I just do this, you can see here lots of images, people wearing the patches on the back, bikers for Trump and everything. Look, there's nothing against these people in general at all. There's no issue here at all. Oh, I don't have an issue. Do what you want to do. There's lots of support from that within the motorcycle community. I think the problem is that you can always point fingers after the effect, or after the event, and you start questioning motives. And I remember at the time when the Bikers for Trump first started up, there was lots of to and fro, and even within the motorcycle community, with the biker community, saying, who are these characters? Who are these lot? And there was lots of arguments from different sides, and the leaders of different groups, and they're falling out with each other. And in the end, you kind of get lost in the confusion of what the hell's going on. He said, okay, well, people vote for, or they support somebody, or they support Trump, but what they're actually supporting. There's a very this guy here. Let me just bring this up here as well. If I can just get here, this guy here, let me just, if I can, crikey. There's a TV program here in the UK by this artist called Grayson Perry. He basically is a big American road trip review, right? And he basically went on a custom bike. He's a very colourful character, this guy, right? And he went all around America on his motorcycle. It's a good series, actually. But basically, he met up with a group from Bikers for Trump, and he's very sort of diplomatic, and he's very much like the Louis Theroux kind of approach, just talking to them and letting them, say their own thing. And look, these people were very, very pro-Trump, very pro, the difference, and it was striking to me that these bikers, right, were not in support of the political party. It was the man. It was purely the person. And I think this, Bikers for Trump, it kind of, says it all, really. They're interested in the person. They're supporting the person. They believe that person. And how many times do we believe in leaders or potential leaders, and then they just deliver, or they don't deliver? And my question is, and this is the whole point of this live show. Where are the Bikers for Trump now? Where is the support now? Especially for what's going on now. He's been indicted. He's been arrested. Harley Loco. Hello, thank you. A handful of friends of mine from young all immigrated either to the States or Australia, and they do not regret it one bit. Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm a great believer in migration. In fact, I think it'll be. Look, no country can survive without migration or immigration. It's just the way of the world. People want to have this, rose-tinted spectacle of a nationalist view that every country can support itself. It just hasn't happened for centuries. There's always been migration. There we go. I belong, Blue Man. I belong to the hot chapter here. A couple of the riders wear a Riders for Trump patch on their vest. It's a bit uncomfortable for me knowing their beliefs, but we all do get along and just talk about our Harley. Well, look, in that sense, I'm absolutely there with you. Personally, and this is where it goes back to, unless you've got very extremist views, which most people, 99% of people, don't have extremist views, right? Because otherwise everybody be arrested, right? But most people sit in the middle ground. They're kind of, they may swing to the left or they may swing to the right, but they're not really highly charged political, observers or don't have strong political opinions. But they still may vote left or right, or in the centre ground, or they, libertarians or whatever it is. But they're kind of, either way, go with the flow. You get a small percentage of those who will be very strong left and very strong right. I know these people all the time. I've got friends of mine who are very strong in one way, and I don't have the same political opinions. Some are very strong the other way, and I don't have their political opinions either. I suppose I've said this many times before. As you get older, I think you tend to generally become a little bit more conservative in your views, or you have certain conservative style traits, let's say. But I think also you can still be, left of centre, Democratic or Labour. You can be very much like that as well. I think it's just an age thing as well. It's just, the way of growing up and adopting more conservative views. You kind of slow down and become more conservative anyway. But I think, a lot of people, most people kind of have a little bit of everything. Be very hard. It's only very small percentage of people very pro. So if this Bikers for Trump, I think that they are a small percentage. They are a small percentage of people who, in terms of the grand scheme of the voting electorate, and also in the grand scheme of bikers as well. Certainly, well, not in the UK or anywhere around Europe. I've never seen anybody with a Bikers for Trump logo, because I think they'd be ridiculed over here. Because why would you be wanna? I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't. Let me know. I don't know. If you saw somebody wearing a Bikers for Trump T-shirt or back patch in a different country, and they're not American, you're not American, would you think it was a bit odd? Would you think it's a bit stupid? It's like me going around saying, biker for Sir Keir Starmer, biker for Boris Johnson, wherever, biker for Rishi Sunak. It's a bit, it's just, maybe it's just not me. Maybe it's just not very British. Maybe it's just not a very European thing to do. Maybe it is a very American thing to do. I don't know. I actually have no opinion on that sort of subject. But within any group, you're always going to have differences of opinion, differences of thought. Not everybody is going to have the same views on anything that is unrelated to the reason why you're there. So in terms of being a part of a motorcycle club, motorcycle riding group, a hog chapter, or whatever, anything. It could be a knitting circle, it could be an art group. It doesn't matter. You're a group of people who are there for the same reason. In a hog group, obviously for hog, right? For Harley Davidson and everything like that. Yeah, some people are going to be left, some people are going to be right, some people are going to be hardline for Trump, others are going to be hardline for Biden, but hopefully most people can sit around a table and just have a good old chat, a good good conversation about differences. It's only the I always call it the idiots who can't settle things with a conversation. And it might be an argument, but it's only ever a conversation. It's just an exchange of words. It's an exchange of ideas. But the point is, with a conversation, with communication, is that you're exchanging ideas. You're hearing each other's point of view. And, okay, if the politicians don't want to talk to each other, the politicians can't communicate, at least the people, the electorate, can still communicate with people. And when you can't communicate with each other, and you can't see each other's point of view, or you can't acknowledge other people's point of view, you don't have to agree with it, but you can at least listen, give the other person their point of view, and they in turn do exactly the same for you. If they can't do that, then you've basically lost. You've lost. Society will break down if all of a sudden you just got warring factions who are not willing to listen to each other. And it only takes a strong group of people who start following a person with lots of charisma, who starts saying the right things, who strikes a chord with certain people's beliefs, and people get swept up into it. And again, I'm not trying to make parallels with really bad people from the past, but this is the kind of mechanism, this is kind of what happens. So I just wonder what people think of somebody like Donald Trump, who, after all the hype, after all the things, after all the fake news, after all the, after all the controversy, after all the deep state issues, after all the, the election fraud, the election claims, everything. I just wonder how many people out there still believe in him, or still believe in the process, or do many people, are many bikers, let's say, or even just regular people out there in the United States, are they even more in support of somebody like Donald Trump? Because he's so anti-establishment. He is so anti what people see that is wrong with, the system, the political system, the media, the everything. Do people just feel totally disenfranchised? Do people feel totally left out in the cold? And sometimes lots of people feel alienated, feel left out in the cold because their own personal circumstances aren't great as well. So people, hey, guess what? We as people, we love to blame other people. It's not our fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's the system's fault. It's the man's fault. It's whatever. There are a few people, a small percentage of people, I would say, who take ownership of their own failings in life or their own situation. If I lose my job, for example, well, okay, I lost my job. It sucks, right? I've lost my job. And I think, well, who else to blame for it? Well, yeah, sometimes there could be somebody else to blame. It could be situations beyond your control. But it really depends how that manifests in the way you think about things as well. And so for some people, again, very small percentages, that turns them into very hard line or hard thinking. Oh, dear. John Martin, a small percent but very vocal sort of. New Zealand in some ways, no one gives a damn about politics. Well, again, I would imagine Bikers for Trump is a small percentage of just the motorcycle community in the United States, let alone the electorate as well. Now, I'm sure. Look, you're always going to get support. But you just wonder, how successful have they been? It's all very well engaging with bikers, let's say in inverted commas, right? When you're trying to get political power, when you're trying to, attract different elements, right? So I'm sure there were different groups from all around the country who were like firefighters for Trump, steel workers for Trump, farm laborers for Trump, construction workers for Trump, whatever, accountants for Trump. There's always going to be groups that will start up. But the percentage of those who actually want to get up in a group and start, being, rallying cries and town criers, I should say, and have rallying calls for a person or a process or whatever, it's actually very small. Most people might be quiet supporters. They're the ones that they say you should always watch out for. It's the ones that are the quiet supporters who never say anything, never let anybody else know what they're thinking or doing, but they're the ones who actually make the decisions. They're the ones who swing the vote, let's say. But there we go. Colin of duty, hey bro, what's going on? I assume that's for me. Yes, all going well. How's your day going, mister? It's going well, thank you very much. Unless that was for somebody else, I do apologise for getting in on the act. You come over from Twitch, hello man, hello. But let's say it's an interesting thing. I say, let's just see for what's the latest on. Has he come out of court yet? Because he's only supposed to be in there for a few minutes, wasn't he? Let's have a look. Trump latest. See what's going on in the world, shall we? Donald Trump picked New York after pleading not guilty to 34. Here we go, crikey. 34 felony felony counts, I should say. The charges relating to him allegedly falsifying business records. Felony usually defined as a crime punishable by a year or more in prison. Well, if he's, I mean, how old is Donald Trump? He's 70 odd, isn't he? Or late 60s, 70? If he gets tagged for any of these, he ain't going to see light of the day. I mean, can you imagine if they arrest him, convict him, and he gets sent to prison? They do say that the law favours those with deep pockets. So you just wonder, how long is he just going to keep this embroiled in, caught up in red tape, and they're not going to be able to touch him. But there we go. There are many people out there who are saying that, hey, he's the only reason he's going for the White House again. And he says here, the front runner to be the Republicans' choice for the White House in 2024 surrendered to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in the same building before his historic hearing. You just wonder, is he just trying to go for the White House because they can't touch him? I don't know. Trump then, I'm just reading this off here. Let me just show the article. This is from Sky News in the UK, by the way. Trump then made his way to the courtroom for his arraignment, where 4 more charges were disclosed. He was not in handcuffs during the proceedings. That's interesting. So I bet if somebody from, let's say, the wrong side of the street, the wrong side of the tracks, was hauled in front of the judge, I bet you they'd be dressed in orange, let's say, dressed in an orange jumpsuit and in handcuffs. I betcha. Trump 76, okay. So he's no spring chicken either. Is being investigated for over an alleged $130,000 hush money payment given to porn actress Stormy Daniels. Yeah. So Piers Morgan on his TV show and also his YouTube channel, he was supposed to be interviewing this Stormy Daniels and for her to spill the beans. I'm not sure what's happened there, but it was supposed to have happened last week, I think. But that hasn't happened. But, there's, basically he's paid her off. There's lots of other stuff here as well. So I think that a lot of it is down to there, but there's also stuff going on. I mean, 34 is a big. There was a big one. It was not only about the inciting the riots to the January 6th onto the Capitol. That was a big thing. I think that's going to be a bit of a hard one to sell or convict him on. But there we go. But there was another one about the process or the policy or the way of either falsifying documents or these official documents or something like that, and they're saying actually that's the one they're going to get him on. They're most likely to get him on. It's that one, and that is a very serious one. He could be sent to prison for years. Now, whether he's convicted of it, who knows? Yeah, John Murray, 76. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I'm actually surprised there. Not surprised. So we tend to agree with your assessment on the number of people that belong to bikers as Trump. It's a small percentage. I would agree. So I've no figures. I mean, I can only go by Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts, and it's only a few 100,000 here. It's a few thousand, a few hundred to a few thousand. I can't remember the exact figures, but it's not. We're not talking hundreds of thousands here. We're talking small. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have support within the motorcycle community, of course. It could just be that people aren't, signed up to their Facebook and everything like that. It's a small percentage, just like we have a few people who have Trump propaganda on their trucks and cars. Yeah, absolutely. On his social media platform, Truth Social. Okay, yes, because he started his own social media. And you can imagine that Truth Social is going to attract just his supporters, right? Heading to Lower Manhattan, the courthouse seems so surreal. Wow, they're going to arrest me. Can't believe this is happening in America. MAGA. I don't know what MAGA means. Television cameras were not allowed into the courtroom. Okay, let's have a look at the latest. See if I can get an up-to-date. Say, if you've got anything on the up-to-date thing here, because I think there's a different. This is an hour ago. Live updates. Here we go. So this is 7 minutes ago. This is from Is this okay? So there were pictures from within the court. Trump charged with 34 counts. Yeah. Trump faces 34 counts of falsifying business records, conspiracy for his alleged role in a hush money payments to two women who claimed to have had affairs with him and paid towards the end of his 2016 campaign. Oh, I wish they had the whole list of felonies here, because it's just an interesting thing. Trump plans to give a speech tonight at Mar-a-Lago after he returns to Florida. So obviously he's not going to be thrown in prison tonight and all this. This is just the arraignment for it all. But look, I say this is kind of monumental times. This is Make America Great Again. Thank you, Blue. Thank you. God, I can't believe I missed that. What's the matter with me? I can't believe it. Yeah, it's Trump and supporters rallying cry. Yeah, it's Make America Great Again. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I all I would say is I just wonder. I wonder how many people would be upfront and honest and say we supported Trump, we don't anymore. Okay, I wonder how many people, or would be upfront and honest saying didn't really support him before, but now I do. You know, that kind of thing. I wonder how many people do it. Just from my pique my interest, I'd be very interested to see how many people, that way inclined. But also this Bikers for Trump, where are they now? What is the appetite out there? Not only in the general population, but also within, I suppose, for this channel and the motorcycle community, within the motorcycle community itself. Are people going to be like, will you lot just, we're with you 100%, yeah, go Trump, or are people within the motorcycle world community going, oh, no, will you just jog on? Will you just shut up a minute? It's. Forget it. There's no way he's ever getting out of this. There's no way, he deserves to get out of this. Or does he deserve to get out of it? Is this all lies? Is this all fake news? Is this all, I just wonder why it's taken so long for this to go on. And I just wonder, is this just a really flaw within the American political system where you can't go after a sitting president? Because all this was happening whilst he was in power as well. So you can't, and also and we're talking, 3 years since he's been out of power? Is it maybe 2.5 years, something like that? 2.5 years. Nearly 2.5 years, right? Why is it taking so long for these, is it a bit convenient that he's just about to try and go for the Republican nomination as well? Go through all that kind of process with them. Is it a little bit convenient? I don't know. It could be. Blue Man, E046. Look up Lincoln Project. Good example of the group of Republicans, Trump supporters, who now want to keep him out of office. Well, this is what I said right at the very start. There was always a group, a strong feeling within the Republican Party that they just didn't want him. They didn't like him. They didn't like him as a Republican candidate, as a Republican frontrunner. But they were so out of sorts from Obama. The kind of, they've been licking their wounds for a few years with Obama. They needed somebody. They need to rally behind somebody who was going to get them the votes, get them into in power. They thought that they could control him. They thought they could control that the process could control him. And look, there's no doubt that he had to make compromises. He definitely did make compromises whilst he was in power, because there was lots of things he said he was going to do and he never did it. There were lots of things he said he was going to expose and he never did. There's lots of things he was, said he was going to get sorted out and he never did. That's because he was handcuffed. He was shackled, just like every other political maneuver in this world. You say one thing and you have to compromise, and you're not allowed to say things. And let's be 100% honest here. You know, government is usually run by the people who wear dark glasses and dark and grey suits. They sit behind the scenes. And then it's only when you get into power, you become prime minister or prime president, that you get a proper briefing. Let's say, look, hey, this is what is actually going on here. This is what's what. This is what's happening in the world. This is the stuff that we're doing. This is the stuff that the other countries are doing. This is the stuff that we can't let the public know. This is the stuff we have to tell the public, because and then I bet you just sat there and you think, wow, what have I just walked into? I bet you there's a lot of that. But they thought that they, as the party, as the process, they thought they could control him. But if you're a truly independent thinking person, which Donald Trump is, and that's why he's attracted so many people, because he's so unconventional, or always was so unconventional, right? In his political things that he said, then all of a sudden, he's thinking, there's no way you're going to control me. And for much of that, he didn't really get controlled. But he was. I'm not saying he was an embarrassment to the people who voted for him, but I think he was an embarrassment to the process. I think he was an embarrassment to he was certainly an embarrassment to those who did not support him, right? Because no matter what he was going to do, they were never going to support him, right? Never going to like him. But I think it was an embarrassment to the process to say, well, actually, you've gone along with voting for somebody that you would help help your party get into power, but you don't even believe in the person that you're putting into power. So what does that say about the whole process? Yes, I believe in an unwritten rule that you can't go for a sitting president, just justice takes them. Yeah. Even Fox News, which we all come Trump TV, has admitted their lies to support this BS was for money making. Behind the scenes, they laugh at him and dislike him too. They make money promoting him as well. Yeah, look, there's lots of that, and there's lots of exposures of mainstream media and how they're politically aligned, left or right, and how they're motivated to say certain things or lead with certain stories or have bias in certain stories based upon who is funding their service, their channel, and everything like that. As I say, money talks, bullshit walks. And if you are influenced in any way, shape or form, then this is what happens. And if you're a corporation that is being influenced by, if you're owned by a corporation, if you're influenced by a corporation, that's it. You can't be trusted. And this is where the likes of Donald Trump was absolutely right. If the mainstream media is, you can't trust what they're saying to you because they're biased because of lots of different reasons. And this is on both sides. This is not just on the left. This is not, but all sides, right? Then you can't trust them. So therefore, if you can't trust them, it's all fake news. So from that point of view, from that, that perspective, there is. But, it's also a bit of a disservice. But again, you've got to say that all media is exactly the same. Well, I think all media has been shown to be, they sing the same tune for a lot of things, that's for sure. But when independent media, independent journalists, independent bloggers, YouTubers, whatever, TikTokers, whatever it is, they're coming out with similar kinds of things or the same things. Okay, fine. You could argue it's a true story. When there's a complete contradiction out there, that's when you say, okay, hold on, one is being biased by the other one. But anyway, listen. So there's not really much going. The cameras weren't out on the hearing was ongoing. No cameras in the courtroom. Let's just see if that's just 7 minutes ago. This is just the indictment. Let's have a look. As I say, all I've got here is that Trump loyalists such as Marjorie Taylor Greene, here we go, and George Santos quickly flee chaotic protests. Lots of protests outside the courthouse as well. It's unsurprising. I'm just watching a video here of it as well, but it's not surprising that there's going to be lots of Lots of pent-up frustration outside here, and lots of all over the country as well. I mean, I think, you know, I asked the question, why is it taking so long? I've got to say, maybe this has just been a ploy. And this is not me with my conspiracy head on here, but please let me know if you think there's any merit to this story. I just wonder whether they've taken it so long so the temperature would have been able to come down a little bit since he lost the election. So people start to think, okay, he's the ex-president, forget it. You know, we've got Biden, you know, Biden's just an old dithery old guy now. Nobody can understand him anyway, so just forget it. You know, he'll just forget about it. Now, a couple of years have gone by. It's calmed down a little bit. The temperature's reduced a little bit. Bang, now we're going to hit him with the indictment and charge him. Whereas if they'd done it straight away, you possibly think, well, it could be a real risk here of another January 6th. There could be riots all over the country and stuff like that. Possibly. I mean, you know. But you kind of think, okay, tactically, that would make sense, if you know what I mean, in terms of the keeping society safe in certain quarters. And let's face it doesn't take long. You know, there's you know, we've heard the term 6 degrees of separation. There's another term for how society can breaks down. You know, I think you're only 6 meals away from, is it 3 meals or 6 meals away from, you know, society breaking down or something like that. You know, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for society to break down, for people to start rioting left, right and centre. You only have to have some kind of draconian laws. People get on about something happens within a local community, then everybody comes out, you know, rioting, whatever. It happens all the time. And this, but you know, let me just say something absolutely clear here before anybody starts pointing the finger and throwing mud here as well. It's not about what ethnic background you're from or what neighborhood you're from, because this can happen in any neighborhood. This can happen with any country as well. It happens all the time. People start getting up, you know, you know, they're agitators. And, you know, we have it in this country as well. There are professional, which inverted commas, you know, agitators who will go from one protest to another, from one protest, you know, jumping on the bandwagon. And it happens, it suddenly sparks up. And you get big protests and things happening, and people get completely carried away, and people start throwing things off buildings and, you know, virtually injuring people or killing people because they get caught up in this motion. And luckily, these people get arrested for the most part, but sometimes they don't. And why did they do it? In the end, they think, oh, I don't know, I was just, you know, you know, and that's it. And they do something absolutely stupid, and they don't even know why they did it. And the people who were egging them on, causing the problem in the first place, they're nowhere to be seen. They've gone as well. Blue Man, okay, don't agree with that. I think it's more because they wanted to make sure they had everything they could possibly get on him. Possibly, again, it was just a theory. Possibly, especially the feds. Blue Man, look at Mar-a-Lago raid and Jack Smith being the special counsel. There's a ton of information to go through, and with Trump bearing information, there's loads of that. I think that's another thing. It's about destroying documents. I think that's another big thing that he's being caught on as well. And I think TM13, protesting a city run by Dems not smart unless you're BLM or Antifa. There isn't very many supports for Trump there. New York City dislikes him so much. Yes, they kicked his white supremacist gang called the Proud Boys out of their city and done the same to MTG. So the interesting, I heard the thing about the Proud Boys a while ago, is that it was started as a joke. And then people latched onto it. As a satirist, as a comedian, started as a joke. Got onto it, and I think he was saying, "Yeah, we're the Proud Boys," you know, and it was like a satirical sketch. But got on with it, and it kind of grew and grew. And the person who actually came up with the idea in the first place, they won't even let him in the Proud Boys themselves. And you know, and apparently the Proud Boys and other groups of that ilk are just full of informants, full of undercover people as well, and all that sort of stuff. It's just, again, I just wonder why people, show their colours in this way and get caught up in this kind of thing. I just don't get it. I actually just don't get it. TM13, yeah, started out as a joke, then developed to psyop. Yeah, it definitely started out as a joke. I don't know the full chronology of it, but it's definitely there. It's definitely there. And you just wonder, this bikers for Trump or any other, how did it start? Why did it start? Well, it starts like a lot of things. People have a rallying cry. People want to get together. People go, yeah, we're gonna support. And how many are with us? How many are with us? And sometimes what it does, other groups that are equally disenfranchised with something, they may not even be bikers, they may not even be anything to do with it, but they latch on to something like this because they can see, if we all join forces, there's more of a groundswell. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, at some point, I would love to know, how this all started. And I know how it all started, but it was by a couple of characters, and some of them fell out with each other, and they're all falling out with within the motorcycle world, with a lot of bloggers and YouTubers and this kind of thing. They're also falling out, I believe, with a lot of motorcycle clubs and stuff like that. It got very messy very quickly, but then they all got, it all kind of got gathered up in one moment, because there was a lot of bikers, normal bikers who were not really associated with bikers for Trump, and also within motorcycle clubs. This is, it's out there, people know, very much a pro-supporter of Donald Trump, and they thought that it's going to be able to get away with all the bullshit, get away with all the red tape, and our lives, our way of life is going to be better under Trump. I just wonder how many of their lives were better under Trump. Did things actually improve? And this always comes back to it. Always comes back to it as, if you vote for something, vote for a political process, vote for a political person, a party, does your life actually improve after it? And sometimes, I suppose you could say yes, but I wonder, percentage-wise, how much does it improve? Don't know. I don't know the answers to that. But I would hazard a guess. But for most people just carry on regardless, carry on doing their own thing, struggling or whatever. No political party is ever going to give me a job. No political party is ever going to pay for my bills. No political party or president or prime minister is ever going to come to me and say, here you go. Here's a couple of £100,000, dollars, shekels. This is see you clear. This is get rid of all your debts. Whatever. If my children, my parents, my siblings, let's say, my cousins, whatever, they need an emergency surgery and only money can pay for it, right? The government aren't going to come pay for it. Nope. So who has to do it? You or your community that are in support of you. They're the only ones that help you. Nobody else is going to help you. So I just wonder how many people put their faith in Trump and put their faith in political leaders and in that process, and how many people believed that Trump was going to help them, and how much help they actually got, and do they still support Trump even though they may or may not have got actual support from him. Interesting. Team 13, both parties here are a joke. They're the same here. I would say they're the same in most countries. Political parties are a bit of a joke. I think that's why they're losing popular vote. That's why people are so disenfranchised. That's why people are so fed up with the whole process. They're just basically fed up. Agreed. Neither care about the people. I don't think any of them care about the people. They care about themselves. They've got self-serving interests, their own goals. That's the problem. Anyway, listen. Let us know. I mean, it'd be very interesting to see. I'm gonna be watching later on the news to see what comes out of the Donald Trump thing here. This is going to go on for months and months. I'm sure. I'll be very surprised if this happens very quickly. Very happen. But 34 counts on felony charges. 34 counts. Some I think are technical things. Some I think are very relatively minor things. But there are a couple of huge things. The bribery of the cover up of the porn star, I think that's a relatively minor thing, right? Although he's been a dirty old man, do you know what I mean? But that's, but I would hazard a guess that many a president or vice president or candidate has been in that position before, if you know what I mean. And there's been loads of those in the past, so you can say that, right? So that is nothing new for me. That isn't really a story. Well, it's a story, but it's not really a story, if you know what I mean. But the big one about the January 6th riots, yeah. But I think that's going to be a hard one to push on him in terms of... But you could talk about the whole rhetoric thing. But the other thing about the technical things that he did in the White House and some of the documents that have been destroyed and all that sort of stuff, those are the ones that I was reading earlier on. Those are the ones that he's actually going to have a real problem in trying to get over and trying to get his innocence on those. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, John Martin agreed Trump will tie this up for years and years. I mean, look, that's got to be his strategy. You would think that's got to be his strategy with his lawyers and his money and his wealth, is to tie this up in litigation for as long as possible, for years and years. And if it's not going his way, then the chances are he'll probably either try and do a runner, which is never going to happen. He'll try and escape somewhere, which that's never going to happen, on one of his private jets somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he's bought an island somewhere and tried to, create his own island and say, right, nope, you can't touch me here. Or go to another country and they'll give him refuge, go into exile or not exile, but you know what I mean. Or something like that. Or I wouldn't be surprised if he, takes a cyanide pill and that's it. See, the thing is, he's 76. How much, if he wraps us up in litigation for years and years, let's face it, even if they do convict him, he's going to be a really old man. So let's, there you go. SC. There we go. Oh. Sorry, they're all coming through now. SC Biker 1958 is the only person who gave a crap for our country, I believe. Can go. If so, then the Republicans can go after Bill. Well, yeah, exactly. Trump's leaving the courthouse now. He's leaving the courthouse now. Yeah. Okay. So I wonder. Listen. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I'm going to let you catch up with what's going on with Donald Trump and the bikers for Trump and the support out there in the motorcycle world. As I say, this is not really a pro or against Donald Trump. It's more of asking questions. It's more about what do you believe out there? Do you believe that he was the right man for the job? Do you believe because of his unconventional nature he was the best president that you've had in years and years? Or was he just an embarrassment? Or did he just fail to deliver on what he was supposed to deliver? Do you feel kind of betrayed by what he did not deliver, or were you very happy with what he delivered, even if you were personally affected in a positive way? Maybe it didn't affect you at all, but were you happy with what he did as a president? Let us know in the comments. But listen, I'll catch you on another video coming very soon, another live show coming very soon, that's for sure. But all I can say is, well, bikers for Trump, where are they now? Let's see what happens with Trump. It's been emotional. I'll catch you again. Cheers now.